Your company will not tell you when it has decided to replace you. It will tell you when the replacement is ready. That is the part most employees never understand. They think layoffs begin with an HR email, a sudden calendar invite, or a meeting titled Business Update. But by the time that meeting happens, the real decision may have been made weeks or even months earlier. The layoff is not the beginning. It is the announcement. Machiavelli understood this about power centuries ago. Power rarely reveals its real intention before the move is ready. It speaks in polite language while preparing a harder decision behind closed doors. In the corporate world, that language sounds harmless. Efficiency, automation, productivity improvement, future readiness, restructuring. But behind those words, something else may be happening. The company may be learning how to function without you. And once a company learns how to function without you, your loyalty, your late nights, your extra effort, and your years of service may not protect you, because companies do not replace people only when they dislike them. They replace people when they calculate that the system can do enough of their work cheaper, faster, and with less dependency. That is why AI is so terrifying in the corporate world right now. AI does not always arrive like a threat. It arrives as a tool. Then it becomes an assistant. Then it becomes a workflow. Then it becomes the first draft, the analyst, the reporting layer, the customer support agent, the code generator, the content writer, the HR chatbot, the data processor. And slowly the question inside leadership changes. At first, they ask, can AI help this employee? Then they ask, can AI do part of this employee's work? Then they ask the question no employee wants to hear. Do we still need the employee at all? That is where the danger begins. Not when AI becomes perfect, but when AI becomes good enough to reduce the team, good enough to automate the repetitive work, good enough to make one employee do the work of three, good enough to convince leadership that some roles are no longer essential. Seneca would tell you that misfortune hurts most when it arrives unprepared. The wise person does not wait for disaster to become obvious. He studies the signs before the blow lands. And Jung would warn that what you refuse to see does not disappear. It simply operates beneath your awareness until one day it becomes your reality. That is what happens to most employees. They see the signs, the sudden documentation requests, the AI tool their team is just testing, the junior employee shadowing their work, the meetings they are no longer invited to, the future conversations that slowly stop happening, but they ignore the pattern because accepting the pattern is uncomfortable. So here is the real question. What if the layoff does not begin when HR calls you, but when your company starts learning how to function without you? And what if, right now, your company is not preparing you for the future? What if it is preparing the future without you? In this video, we are going to break down 10 signs you are being slowly replaced at work. One sign alone may mean nothing, but when these signs start appearing together, you are no longer looking at coincidence. You are looking at a pattern. This is not meant to make you panic. Epictetus would remind you that a man does not control the decisions of others, the movements of power, or the direction of fortune. He controls only his judgment, his preparation, his choices, and his response. You cannot control whether your role becomes part of an efficiency plan, but you can control your preparation. You can control your awareness. You can control your next move. Most employees wait for the announcement. Strategic employees read the pattern before the announcement arrives. So before we begin, comment this: I read the signs. Now, let's begin. Sign number 1. They stop asking for your judgment and start extracting your process. This is usually the first warning sign. Your manager asks you to document your work. then your workflow, then your decision logic, then the edge cases, then the exact steps you take when something goes wrong. At first, it looks harmless. You think, finally they are realizing how much I do. But sometimes documentation is not appreciation. Sometimes documentation is extraction. Machiavelli would tell you to look beyond the words and study the interest behind the action. A company cannot automate what it does not understand. So before your work can be replaced, it must first be mapped. Before AI can perform the task, the company needs to understand the task. What decisions do you make? What exceptions do you handle? What judgment have you built over years of experience? That is the part they want to capture. Most employees think their knowledge makes them safe. But in an AI-driven company, undocumented knowledge is power. Documented knowledge can become a system. So ask yourself this: are they documenting your work to support you? Or are they documenting your work so the work can survive without you? Because the first thing a company removes is not your job. It removes its dependence on you. Sign number 2. AI tools are introduced quietly around your exact tasks. AI rarely enters as your replacement. It enters as your assistant. At first, the company says it is just there to help, to reduce manual work, to improve productivity, to support the team. But watch where the tool is placed. If AI is being tested around your exact responsibilities, your role is being studied. If you write reports, suddenly AI is drafting reports. If you analyze data, suddenly AI is generating summaries. If you handle customer queries, suddenly a chatbot is handling first-level responses. If you create content, suddenly AI is creating first drafts. The company may not be saying, "Can AI replace this employee?" out loud, but it may be testing the answer quietly. This is where Jung's idea of the hidden pattern becomes useful. What is ignored does not disappear. It grows in the background. Most employees relax when they hear the word tool. Strategic employees ask, what part of my work is this tool learning to do? Because the danger is not when AI becomes perfect. The danger is when AI becomes good enough. Sign number 3. Your work is broken into checklists, templates, and repeatable steps. The more your work becomes a process, the easier it becomes to replace. Your manager starts asking for templates, standard operating procedures, step-by-step guides, decision trees, reusable formats, approval flows, common responses. At first, it feels like organization, but sometimes it is simplification. The company is taking work that once depended on your experience and turning it into something anyone can follow, or something a system can follow. When your judgment becomes a checklist, your role becomes easier to automate. When your experience becomes a template, your value becomes easier to transfer. When your decision-making becomes a flowchart, AI can enter the conversation. Seneca believed that the wise person prepares for danger before it arrives. So do not wait until the checklist becomes the replacement. Notice when your role is being reduced into steps. The question is not, am I busy? The question is my work still dependent on my judgment? Because busy people get replaced too, especially when their busyness can be converted into repeatable steps. Sign number 4. Someone starts shadowing you under the name of backup planning. This is one of the oldest corporate moves. A junior employee starts joining your calls. A contractor is asked to understand your work. A new team member is suddenly assigned to support you. Someone starts asking about your tasks, your files, your contacts, your recurring issues, your process. And the explanation sounds reasonable. We need backup coverage. We want continuity. We need cross-training. Sometimes this is genuine, but sometimes it is knowledge transfer before removal. Before companies remove a person, They make sure the knowledge has somewhere else to go. That place could be another employee, a cheaper resource, an offshore team, a vendor, or an AI system. Machiavelli's world was built on succession, control, and preparation before the move. Corporate life is not so different. Most employees feel proud when they are asked to train someone. They think it means they are trusted, and maybe it does. But if the shadowing increases while your future conversations decrease, pay attention. The danger is not that someone is learning from you. The danger is that they are learning from you while the company is learning to need you less. Sign number 5. You are slowly removed from strategic meetings. This sign is subtle but serious. You are still working. You are still completing tasks. You are still getting emails, but you are no longer in the important rooms. Earlier, your opinion was needed before decisions were made. Now you are informed after decisions are made. Earlier, people asked, "What do you think?" Now they say, "Please execute this." Earlier, you were part of planning. Now you are only part of delivery. That is a major shift, because when a company still needs your hands, but no longer needs your judgment, your role is shrinking. Machiavelli understood that real power sits close to decision-making. If you are no longer near the decision, you are no longer near the power. Your calendar may still be full. Your workload may still be heavy, but your influence may already be declining. Most employees measure security by how busy they are. Strategic employees measure security by how much influence they still have. If decisions about your work are happening without you, your role may already be moving from essential to replaceable. Execution can be automated. Judgment is harder to replace. So when they stop asking for your judgment, pay attention. Sign number 6. Your manager stops discussing your long-term future. This sign is quiet. No one says anything negative. No one threatens you. No one tells you your performance is bad. But something disappears. Career conversations stop. Growth discussions stop. Future responsibilities stop. Your manager no longer talks about what you will own next quarter. No one discusses your development plan. Everything becomes short-term. Finish this task, close this ticket, complete this documentation, train this person, support this transition. When a company sees a future with you, it usually talks to you about that future. When it only sees short-term utility, it talks only about short-term execution. Seneca would call this the moment where you must prepare your mind before fortune changes. Do not wait for the loss to become official. Read the silence early, because silence about your future can be louder than criticism. Criticism means they still want correction. Silence may mean they have already stopped imagining you in the next version of the team. When your manager stops developing you and only starts using you, you may no longer be seen as a long-term asset. You may be seen as a bridge, useful until the new system is ready. Sign number 7. Your performance is suddenly measured against speed, cost, and efficiency. This is where AI becomes a direct competitor. Earlier, your work may have been judged by quality, judgment, problem-solving, reliability, and trust. But suddenly, the language changes. How fast can this be done? How many hours does this take? Can we reduce manual effort? Can this be done with fewer people? Can AI generate the first version? Can one person handle what 3 people handled earlier? When leadership reduces your value to speed and cost, your human advantage is being narrowed. Because AI is built to compete on speed and scale. It does not need sleep. It does not ask for leave. It does not need salary hikes. It does not complain about repetitive work. Epictetus would remind you not to waste energy arguing with reality. You cannot control whether your company compares you with AI. But you can control what kind of value you build. So ask, what part of my work proves human judgment, not just human effort? because effort alone is no longer enough. The safest work is work that requires accountability, context, trust, creativity, negotiation, and ownership. If your company stops valuing those parts and only measures speed, watch carefully. Sign number 8. You are asked to train the system. This is one of the most dangerous signs because it feels like responsibility. You are asked to improve the knowledge base, feed examples into the AI tool, correct AI outputs, review automated drafts, build prompts, create FAQs, record best practices, explain how you solve recurring issues. And because it sounds like innovation, you participate. You think you are becoming part of the future. But sometimes you are training the future to need you less. This does not mean you should refuse every AI project. That would be foolish. AI is becoming part of work. But Epictetus would ask one simple question. What is within your control? If you are only feeding the system, your control is low. If you learn to manage, audit, improve, and govern the system, your control increases. Most employees become data sources. Strategic employees become system owners. That is the difference. Do not just train the tool. Learn how to direct the tool, because the employee who only feeds the system may be replaced by it. But the employee who understands how to control the system becomes harder to remove. Sign number 9. Leadership starts using efficiency language around your team. Corporate language usually changes before corporate action. Listen carefully to the words being used around your department. Automation, optimization, scalability, lean structure, cost efficiency, productivity improvement, resource balancing, role consolidation, digital transformation, operating model redesign. These words are not always bad, but they are rarely casual. Companies often prepare layoffs with efficiency language long before they announce them with HR language. Machiavelli would not tell you to listen only to what power says. He would tell you to study what power is preparing to do. When leadership says the team must become leaner, ask what that means. When they say work must become scalable, ask who or what they expect to scale it. When they say the operating model is changing, ask which roles become less necessary in the new model. Most employees ignore corporate language because it sounds vague. Strategic employees know vague language is often where the truth hides. Do not wait for the direct sentence. Learn to hear the indirect one. Sign number 10. Your absence stops creating urgency. This may be the most painful sign. Earlier, when you were unavailable, things paused. People waited for your input. Meetings were moved. Decisions were delayed. Someone asked, "When will you be back?" But now, work continues without you. Your leave does not disturb anything. Your absence does not create questions. Your opinion is not needed. Your tasks are handled by someone else, a process, or a system, and nobody seems uncomfortable. That is when you should pay attention. Jung would say that the pattern you refuse to face will eventually confront you as reality, and this is one of those patterns. The true measure of replaceability is not how much work you do when you are present. It is how much the company feels your absence when you are not. If your absence once created friction, but now creates no disturbance, the company may have already reduced its dependency on you. The work still exists. The output still exists. The process still exists. But your importance inside that process has faded. The most dangerous sign is not that people criticize your work. Criticism means they are still engaged. The most dangerous sign is that the system no longer needs your presence to keep moving. Because once your absence stops hurting, your replacement is no longer theoretical, it is operational. Now, understand this clearly. One sign does not mean your company is replacing you. One new AI tool does not mean your job is gone. One documentation request does not mean a layoff is coming. But when these signs start appearing together, you cannot afford to ignore them. When your process is being extracted, your judgment is being reduced. AI is being tested around your tasks. Someone else is learning your work. Your meetings are shrinking. Your future conversations have stopped. And leadership keeps repeating words like automation, efficiency, and scalability. You are no longer looking at random workplace changes. You are looking at a pattern, and the pattern is simple. Before a company removes an employee, it first removes its dependence on that employee. Machiavelli would tell you to stop judging power by its public language and start judging it by its private preparation. Seneca would tell you that the blow you prepare for early loses much of its power. Epictetus would remind you that you do not command the choices of others, the plans of those above you, or the changing direction of fortune, but you control your response. You control your preparation. You control the skills you build, the network you strengthen, the options you create, and the kind of value you choose to become known for. And Jung would warn you not to bury the pattern just because it makes you uncomfortable. What you refuse to face does not disappear. It waits, so do not panic. Observe. Ask better questions. Which part of your work is becoming repeatable? Which part is being documented? Which part is being tested through AI? Which decisions are now happening without you? Which people are suddenly learning your responsibilities? And most importantly, would your company feel pain if you disappeared tomorrow? If the answer is no, your next move is not fear. Your next move is preparation. Update your resume. Build external options. Learn the same AI tools your company is using. Move closer to work that requires judgment, accountability, client trust, creativity, negotiation, leadership, and ownership. Because in the AI age, being hardworking is not enough. Being busy is not enough. Being loyal is not enough. You have to become difficult to replace. Most employees wait for certainty. Strategic employees move when the pattern becomes visible. So if you are ready to stop waiting for the announcement and start reading the signs before the shock arrives, comment, "I read the pattern." And subscribe for more videos that decode power, strategy, and survival in the modern workplace.